Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Paul Verhoeven's Hollow Man in the year 2000. Now here we are with another horror review, and of course this one is actually a horror film, if you didn't know. Of course I was kind of debating whether to do this for Halloween, this kind of series of films I'm doing, horror reviews. But it is basically a horror. Yes, it is more of a thriller, kind of sci-fi film. But basically, it does fall into the horror genre, so I am reviewing it. And yes, I didn't expect much because I have seen this before, and many years ago I never loved it, and it's got shocking ratings, very shocking ratings. And of course inspired by The Invisible Man, and Kevin Bacon stars as Sebastian, the protagonist, I guess, and you've also got Elisabeth Shue, Josh Brolin. So yeah, and they're really the main kind of famous actors in this film. I've never seen any of the director's other work, but I've heard he's done. Of course, he's done Total Recall, stuff like that, and of course he has done Showgirls, which is meant to be, a lot of people say is an awful film. But yes, basically I've seen this a few times, and I rewatched it tonight. Hadn't seen it in probably about a decade now, and yes, it's not got good acclaim, and it's for a reason for me. This film, it is a bad film, unfortunately. Wow, it's quite shocking actually. The main plot of this film is basically, this group of scientists, and there's meetings and everything with this committee, and all these boring meetings. They're not done well because the dialogue is awful in this film. But yes, basically, they try and, especially Kevin Bacon's character of Sebastian, they're trying to break through, with invisibility, and they're doing testing on these, kind of these animals at the beginning, and you see that, and basically in the labs and everything, and basically Kevin Bacon eventually he tries it on himself, and he goes invisible, and the rest of the film he is invisible, and of course the Hollow Man, very obvious there. But yes, of course there are side effects, and he basically goes becomes more and more unstable over the film, and basically becomes more and more violent. And yeah, of course, I'm not going into specific plot details and spoilers, but it is basically, after this, a slasher film, but in disguise, and I think it has an interesting, maybe a bit too basic, but slightly interesting kind of plot premise. Could have been a great film, in the right hands, but here it wasn't. It was very bad for me. I think it was just one of the most actually soulless films I've seen in a while. I think Kevin Bacon even is not good in the film for me. Josh Brolin is decent, but he's not got a good script to go with. So I love Josh Brolin. He's my favourite actor out of all the people here. Like him more than any other people here. But even then, it's good. It's a good performance. I think he was the best character in the film. But again, the script is so bad and so cheesy. So generic. It's just he can't. It's a shame. But yeah, basically, this film is really bad. I think yes, it is a horror film, and it does have some effective at moments. Moments of tension, atmosphere to an extent, but mainly it is in the worst ways. This film is very exploitative actually for me. I think the beginning scenes. It was very clear that that it's just an awful script. I think none of these characters were very interesting at all. They're all one note, really, and especially the ones that aren't, I suppose big actors. They weren't big actors. They were kind of all lumped together, you could say. And they were not given any sort of character development at all. Josh Brolin, Elisabeth Shue, and Kevin Bacon's characters, they're given a bit more of attention, you could say, because they're kind of the big known actors. And yes, basically, these three are mainly, the main characters of the film. There's kind of a love triangle that happens, which is just really cheesy and kind of not well thought out for me. And then, of course, the performances. Kevin Bacon is not good in this film, and he's completely, his character, of Sebastian, completely unlikable. One of the most unlikable protagonists. He's cocky. He's kind of aggressive, and once the film, of course, the thing does happen, it becomes even more so of a, protagonist I don't think anyone can root for, it's just, I don't know what we were trying to, they were trying to do here, but as well as that, he's very, very one note after that, and annoying, petulant, just not good, and the performance is just not great for me. Elisabeth Shue, really bad performance here, unfortunately. And yeah, I just think her character early on was quite annoying. She came in, got a bit better towards the end, and I think the ending act is probably better than the rest of the film because at least it's not just really, really bad dialogue scenes. It has got some action, some tension there. To an extent, a little bit effective in places, but really, again, very generic, kind of very, very mindless as well. There's a lot of violence in this film, and a lot of it is exploitive, just done in a way that is just lacks humanity for me. This really is a nasty film, and I'll just say, I really think it's quite a twisted film. It doesn't have a soul really. I don't feel no heart, whatsoever really for me. I didn't feel that. I think very, very cold film. And a lot of the characters, kind of egging each other on about things like harassing women and stuff, and it's just really, really not a good film. And just it's not well made. It's kind of laughably bad in places, and of course it is quite offensive and exploitive. The violence, is kind of really quite bad in the film, and there's maybe one or two interesting, creative, you could say, to an extent, deaths in the film, but really, again, it's just so nasty. It never really, it never values anyone's lives in this film. Again, slasher films, which basically this turns into, it's very, very hard to make a great one, and this is a bad one, and certainly once things happen, and people get killed off and everything, it turns into this. It's just very, very generic, mindless, and yeah, I just did not care for this film at all. It was quite boring in places because there was no, not a compelling script. Direction was, at its best, mediocre. I feel, the cinematography was very, very flat, but it had some, as I say, decent shots here and there, and stuff. And basically, I didn't care about this. The characters in this film. I didn't, think, the Jerry Goldsmith score was okay, but I didn't really get anything out of that too much, which is a shame. But yes, basically, I think this film, is a really bad film. I think I watched it tonight because I was going to watch a certain horror film tonight, and then I thought, no, I'll do that tomorrow. I just put this on. I thought, yeah, it's probably going to be crap when I rewatch it, and it was. I would not recommend this film. It's really, really bad actually for me, and I maybe there's been a couple of films that I've hated a bit more. That I've given a bit of a higher score than this, but really, it does fall into the the 20s, the percentage there. I'd have to give it a 29% because it really is just even when there is a bit campy kind of laughs here and there, and seeing Josh Brolin, Kevin Bacon is nice, but I can't give this more than that. I don't think it's just a bad one. I think it's very bad because it's so poorly executed. Overall the script is so bad. The characters are just really awful in this film overall. Annoying, one note, and cheesy. The kind of the stuff they do with invisibility, it's just very, very generic. The kind of just the way they don't really involve you in this stuff at all. Really, Kevin Bacon is not horrendous, but he is pretty bad in the film for me. And I just think his character is just an awful protagonist or villain, if you want to say that. Whichever one you take, really. Just ineffective as both. Just one note, of course, as well. And it's just got so many stupid moments to break the tone as well. As again, there is some scenes where, when he is the Hollow Man, he's invisible. Basically, this is the thing that really bugs me as well. Could have been done, really, really well. You could say under the great hands, with better hands, but basically, once he becomes invisible, his kind of what he does with this, he goes around most of the time, yes, killing people, but also stalking women. Goes into someone's apartment and basically, he does stuff to her. He kind of tries to molest and kind of rape women. It's just really quite stupid and very, very offensive. Because it never, of course, dealt with anything, raised issues or anything. It's just it kind of eggs on the violence, and the kind of the kind of seedy nature of it all. You know, the rape stuff and that. You know, and the kind of stuff where he molests people and kind of is watching people in the toilet and stuff like that. It's just disgusting. This film. It's really vile. And you know, there's one character that kind of eggs him on, and I just thought at that point, wow, you know, this just has no soul really, has no heart. And you know, I didn't quite hate it as much as you know a lot of other films that I've seen. That was, you know, that I've given maybe a 30 something percentage. Wasn't quite as bored, but you know, it's still a film I hated really. It was a shockingly bad film actually overall, and just yes, you know, the kind of last act is a bit better. But really, again, the ending's awful. It's just a pointless film for me. You know, pointless exercise and violence, sexual stuff that just really annoys me. In the way it's done, it just is not handled well. You know, it's very, very offensive and a nasty film. And yeah, I just don't recommend it. And yeah, I just thought, you know, if it wasn't Halloween, I wouldn't be reviewing this because I really detested it actually overall. And you know, I got really, really bored. I just think it's a really bad film. Not like an unwatchable one, but it really isn't good. I wouldn't recommend it, but try and see what you think of it. Yeah, but basically, this film, you know, it's quite shocking, you know, and yeah, I don't really want to, you know, talk about this one again for a while. And yeah, thanks for watching my review. Of course, tomorrow will be some better horrors, you know, that I'll be reviewing. Of course, I'll also be uploading on Halloween a horror-related list. So yes, look forward to that. And yes, thanks for watching my review of Hollow Man.